to Z Mysteries. Book number 25. The Yellow Yacht by Ron Roy. Chapter 7. What, you think Yondo stole the gold? Sammy asked. Well, he made a lot of other stuff disappear, Dink said. Like you, Ruth Rose. He didn't make me disappear, Ruth Rose said. It was a trick. While you guys were changing for the party, Yondo asked me to help him. See, he's a ventriloquist, too. He threw my voice up to the ceiling. When you guys all looked up there, I scooted out of the box and crawled under the table. Then I just got up and sat back in my chair again. If Yondo is the thief, where did he hide the gold? Sammy asked Dink. And how would he get it away from near? The guards check every car going through the gate. No one could get past them. Except maybe a magician, Dink mumbled. I think Mr. Rico and Mr. Boz are the crooks, Ruth Rose said. I hate to admit it, but I agree with Ruth Rose, Josh said. I think Mr. Boz was on the other side of the wall with the getaway car waiting for Rico to drop the gold over. They both told the cops they had never seen that note, Sammy said. Mr. Boz said someone must have stolen that writing paper from his office. Just then, a shadow fell over the kids. Yondo had appeared at the top of the stairs. We meet again, the magician said. What are you whispering about? We're just talking about the gold robbery, Sammy said. Ah, yes, your parents told me about the bank manager and the job foreman, Yondo said. What a shame. Well, I leave early tomorrow morning, so I will say good night. And happy birthday, Sammy. Yondo walked past the kids and disappeared into his room. They all heard the door lock. The next morning, the kids walked down to the aquarium pit. No one was working in it. Yellow crime scene tape had been strung around the whole place. The backhoe stood right where it had been left. The bank was locked up, with a big closed sign on the door. I wonder if my father will ever get the gold back, Sammy said. Did Yondo leave yet? Dink asked. Sammy nodded. I saw him drive away this morning, he said. Hello! The kids heard someone yell from behind them. Dr. Score had tied a yellow inflatable dinghy to the dock and was walking toward them. Any news on the robbery? He asked when he reached the four kids. Sammy brought him up to date on Rico and Mr. Boz. Dr. Score nodded. Yes, I assumed it was an inside job, he said. At least the culprits are behind bars, where they belong. And how was your party, Sammy? Cool. My dad hired a magician, and he was awesome, Sammy said. A magician? How wonderful. Dr. Score showed the kids a grocery shopping list. I must get to the store. Your parents are joining me for lunch on my boat, he said. You kids are invited too, of course. He hurried off toward the shops. I hope Dr. Score is a good cook, Josh said. At noon, a sturdy-looking fiberglass boat pulled up to the dock. A boy who looked about 16 years old was at the motor. He wore a bathing suit and a tank top. Hi, Hugo, Sammy cried. These are my friends, Dink, Josh, and Ruth Rose. They're from Connecticut in America. I want to visit your country someday, Hugo said. Do you live near New York City? Yes, Dink said. My Uncle Worden lives there. If you come to visit, you can stay with us. Hugo beamed. Thank you. Hugo is going to study at the new school, the king told the kids, and one day he'll work at the aquarium. Hugo helped everyone aboard and motored toward the yellow yacht. How are you spending your summer vacation? The queen asked Hugo. The boy grinned. I'm doing a lot of diving and snorkeling, he said. Do you see a lot of fish around here? Asked Josh. Hugo nodded. Every size and color you can imagine, he said. I'll take you guys snorkeling later if you want. Sammy looked at his parents. Can we? He asked. His father said, Of course. Hugo, do you have 4 life vests? Yes, sir, Hugo said. He looked at his diver's watch. How about 3 o'clock? Excellent, Sammy said. I've got snorkel gear you guys can borrow. A few minutes later, Hugo dropped them off, and they climbed aboard Sundown. Please come back for us at 2 o'clock, the king called back to Hugo. Hugo saluted. I'll be here, he said. Soon the lunch guests were seated on comfortable benches around a table on Sundown's foredeck. A canvas canopy kept the sun off. Your boat is beautiful, Ruth Rose told Dr. Score. Thank you, my dear, Dr. Score said. Would you like to explore her before we eat? Sure, she said. The kids scampered away. They examined every part of the yacht, fore and aft. In the galley, they found a stove, sink, and refrigerator. A man was preparing their lunches. There were 3 bedrooms. The kids stepped inside the largest onto a bright blue carpet. The room had a king-size bed and a chair near an open porthole. Next to the door was an antique desk. Dink saw papers and letters with Dr. Score's name on them. Holding down a few letters was a paperweight in the shape of a small boat. Dink saw a green stripe on the boat and realized it was a miniature replica of Sundown. Just then they heard a bell ring above them. Lunch, Josh said, and the kids headed for the stairs. Chapter 8. Dr. Score, my husband told me you're studying coral, is that right? The Queen asked, as the lunch dishes were being cleared. Yes, Dr. Score said. Coral is dying and... Wait, I have some photographs. Dr. Score left the table and returned with a photo album. They flipped through the pages as Dr. Score showed them pictures of healthy coral and sick or dead coral. When coral dies, other sea life dies, the scientist said. Is this a picture of Sundown? Ruth Rose asked him, pointing at another photograph. Yes, I took this with my Polaroid camera when we arrived here a few days ago, Dr. Score said. Isn't she beautiful? This snapshot showed Sundown with her sails up, puffed from a breeze. The yellow paint gleamed above the green stripe. In the background, Dink could see the stone pier and the castle. Do you fish off the boat? Josh asked. I don't, but my men do, Dr. Score said. Do you like to fish, Josh? The king asked. Yes, sir, I love it, Josh answered. Then maybe we can do some fishing before you leave, the king said. This has been lovely, the queen told Dr. Score. Please come have dinner with us soon. Your food was delicious, but now I need a nap. Dr. Score smiled. This is my nap time, too, he said. And I'm afraid I can't accept your kind invitation. We sail this afternoon, as soon as the breeze picks up. I'm sorry you're leaving, the king said, but thank you for your suggestions on my project. Do come back and see us when the aquarium is up and running. There was a pause, as if everyone was wondering if the aquarium would ever get finished. They said goodbye, and minutes later Hugo's flat-bottomed boat pulled up. They all climbed aboard and headed back to the dock. Dink turned around and looked over Hugo's shoulder at Sundown. He could see Dr. Score standing on the foredeck, watching them through binoculars. Watching the yacht get farther away, Dink didn't see the green stripe. He rubbed his eyes. How could the stripe just disappear, he wondered. While the queen napped and the king talked with the police, Sammy outfitted the kids with snorkel equipment. At 3 o'clock, they were waiting on the dock for Hugo. Hugo showed up a few minutes later. His boat left a small wake as it bumped gently up against the dock. Climb in, he said. Will we see any sharks? Josh asked as the kids clambered down into the boat. Not where we're going. Hugo pointed to the right, just outside the harbor entrance. See that red buoy sticking up? It's marking the place where a boat sank a long time ago. he said. The water is shallow and lots of fish hang out there, perfect for snorkeling. Hugo handed the 4 kids orange life vests and made sure they were fitted properly. He aimed the boat out into the harbor, and a few minutes later he reached the buoy. He stopped the engine and dropped the anchor. Then he tossed a float with a small flag attached to it into the water. This flag lets other boaters know there are people in the water here, Hugo explained. When they see the flag, they stay away. Hugo helped the kids with their snorkels, masks, and flippers. He jumped into the water and showed them how to clamp the snorkel's mouthpiece in their teeth and breathe. When the kids were floating in the water, Hugo and Sammy showed them how to swim face down using just their flippers and no arms. If you need me, just tap the top of your head with your hand like this, Hugo said, demonstrating. If I see that signal, I'll swim right over. With Hugo leading, the 4 kids flippered a few yards away from the flag. When Dink put his face underwater, he was amazed. The water was as clear as glass. Hundreds of fish darted every which way. He saw yellow, purple, blue, and red fish. 10 feet below the surface lay the sunken boat. It was partly rotted away. Seaweed and barnacles clung to the boat's broken hull. Several large rocks sat on the boat's bottom. The kids stayed near each other. Hugo pointed to a creature that looked like a lobster, but it didn't have big claws. When the creature saw the humans, it darted under the boat. After about 10 minutes of exploring, Hugo signaled that they should meet him at his boat. The kids paddled over and held on to the side. They removed their masks and mouthpieces so they could talk. This is so amazing, Josh said. A purple fish came right up to my mask and looked at me. Hugo, why are there rocks in the sunken boat? Dink asked. The rocks are to weigh it down so it won't drift away, Hugo said. The boat attracts fish. Suddenly, Dink knew why Sundown's green stripe was missing. He felt his heart start to race. Goosebumps marched up his arms. Guys, I think I know where the gold is, Dink said.